Krishna is saying, so okay, please concentrate on the verse. So Krishna is saying, oh, best of the Bharatas, now hear my judgment about renunciation. O tiger among men, renunciation is declared in the scriptures to be of three kinds. So obviously, what are the three kinds? Depending on the three modes. As we were seeing in the 17th chapter, Krishna was speaking. Although there are difference of opinions about renunciation, here the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. So there may be many, many views. There are as many people, as many views are there. But for us, the view of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, is the only view that we should be guided with. We should not be influenced by others' view. So Prabhupada is saying, Shri Krishna gives his judgment, which should be taken as final. Similarly, there may be many, many acharyas and many, many commentaries and many, many descriptions and purport and interpretation. So whatever Srila Prabhupada says, this should be taken as final. After all, the Vedas are different laws given by the Lord. Here the Lord is personally present and his word should be taken as final. The Lord says that the process of renunciation should be considered in terms of the modes of material nature in which they are performed. So there is no universal law. You understand? This is the nuance. This is the subtlety that what which is applicable to one is not necessarily applicable to the other. It will depend on his varna and his ashrama. So we're talking about renunciation. So what is applicable to Brahmana is not necessarily applicable to a Vaishya or a Shudra. Is that okay? We proceed? Yeah. So that is why bhakti requires personal guidance. Like if someone is diseased, does he go to the medical shop and take the medicine and just gets cured? No, it does not happen. Many times we have tried that. We know that what is the disease and we also know what is the medicine. It has happened with me many times in my life that I try to take the medicine myself, it does not work. And we go to the doctor, pay his fees, which we want to avoid. And he gives the same medicine. And I tell him that this medicine is useless. I have already taken this medicine. It is not working. And the doctor says, don't worry. It will work. And it works. If that is the case with a medical doctor who is a materialist, what to speak of spiritual solution? Dear Krishna is saying here that renunciation is of three types or three kinds as it is declared in the scriptures. And then the fifth verse, Yagyadana tapa karma natajyam karyam evatar Yagyadanam tapascheva pavanani manishina. So what should never be given up? Krishna is saying, Yagyadana tapah karma. The activities of performing sacrifice, the activities of performing charity, the activities of performing austerity. Such karma, Yagyadana tapah karma. So all these actions or activities or karmas, they should na tajyam karyam evata. It is never ever to be given up or renounced or sacrificed. Why? The next line Krishna says, Yagyadana tapaschaiva pavanani manishina. Pavanani means to purify. To whom it purifies? Even the most pure, manishina. Mana means the mind and Isha means one who has controlled the mind. Who is in such a position whose mind is under his control. And what did Krishna speak in the second chapter? If you remember, in the second chapter, Krishna spoke about second, and I think the verse number is 51. There also he's talking about one more. Okay, 2.51. There also Krishna is saying, something but has to give up, which even the Manishina give up. Here Krishna is saying what even the Manishina, those who have controlled the mind, should not give up. 2.51. Can you show the verse? Manoram Jagannath Prabhu? Yeah. There Krishna is saying, see, that is the introduction, and here Krishna is giving the conclusion. Karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva manishina janma bandha vinurmukta padam gachanti anamayam. So how it purifies? Because these actions are performed for the purification, for the benefit of not the self. So karmajam buddhi yuktahi phalam tyaktva. And here Krishna is saying, na tajyam, that which is never to be given up. And here in the second chapter, Krishna is recommending which is always to be given up. What one has to give up is the phala. By engaging in devotional service, great sages or devotees free themselves from the result of the work in the material world. In this way, from the result, freedom from the result. So they have to phalam tattva. One has to give up the phalam, the result or the fruit of the action. There one has to learn to give up. But here Krishna is saying, even the Manishina, those who are purified men, they should never give up the acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance. They must be performed. Okay, you can stop the share. I'm just making a reference. It struck me. While we are coming to the 18th chapter, we will continue reviewing. What all we have read, where all. So there Krishna is saying that one has to always give up. Even the Manishna has to give up. What? Phalam tyaktva. But here Krishna is saying, even the Manishna should never give up. What? The acts of sacrifice, charity and penance are not to be given up. They must be performed. Indeed, sacrifice, charity and penance purify even the great souls. Even those who have conquered the mind. It purifies them. And what is the purification? Padam gachanti anamayam. As it was mentioned in the 51st verse of the second chapter, they can go to the supreme destination. Padam gachanti. They can reach to the topmost destination. Anamaya means from where there are no returns. That means he goes to a place which is beyond Mrityu Sansara Sagara. So let us understand that even it is recommended for those who are liberated soul. So what to speak of conditioned soul like us? So these acts must never be given up. The yogi should perform acts for the advancement of human society. So Prabhupada is saying that these acts are for the purification of not only the individual, but also for the entire mass of men. There are many purificatory processes for advancing a human being to spiritual life. We have discussed so many times. How many purificatory processes are there? At least 12. Prominent of them are 12. From the time of Garbhadhan Samskar till the time of death. The marriage ceremony, for example, is considered to be one of these sacrifices. So it is called Vivaha Samskar, or it is called Vivaha Yajna. And Prabhupada talks about his own personal precept. He says, should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relation encourage the marriage ceremony? Why Prabhupada is speaking about this in Yajna and Tapa? Because Prabhupada performed the marriage ceremony. Can anyone remember what was the first marriage ceremony Srila Prabhupada performed of his two disciples, two initiated disciples?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Mukund Maharaj and Janaki Devidas.
Very good. But where are you speaking from? Okay, you are on the way. This is memory. Ramya Madhuri has excellent memory. Others have also heard it, but they don't remember. They don't give so value and importance to it. So they don't remember. Anything which you give as much value, you will be able to remember. So many things of our, so many past year is still live in our memory. Why? What is the reason? Because we have attached much value to it. And as we value less, we will remember less. And second reason is, if we remember material things more, then spiritual thing has no space to fit in. Then you will not be able to remember. Excellent. So Prabhupada got both of them married. You know how Prabhupada met them? They used to come, and when Prabhupada was to leave that loft where he was attacked by the drug addict inmate David at the dead of night, the Prabhupada had to come on street. The Prabhupada knew no one. So Prabhupada went to the house of Mukund. At that time, I don't remember his legal name, Mukund Maharaj. Anyone remembers the name?
Prabhuji, I think Michael.
Michael Grant. Very good. Very good. Our Matajis are, really sharp. Both of them. Michael Grant. So he was staying with Jain. And they were in a live-in relationship. And see Prabhupada's liberal nature, that he even accepted whoever came from whatever situation. Today we were discussing in the Bhakti Shastri that how Krishna consciousness is not dependent on the mode. And when Prabhupada went, they came out sleeping and the TV was running, and on the TV there was cartoon playing. Anyway, Prabhupada did not stay there that night. He stayed with someone else. But Prabhupada gave both of them initiation because Michael Grant helped Prabhupada to get the 26th 2nd Avenue, both the storefront and his apartment. And interestingly, when the rent came to be paid for the first month, Prabhupada said that Michael Grant and there was one more boy, they will pay. See Prabhupada's confidence. Prabhupada had no penny, but he took both the storefront and the apartment. It was for $186. And Prabhupada asked the agent, you see, the agent who is to be given commission, Prabhupada made him the life member. Prabhupada made him the member of the society then and there when he was dealing and made him contribute $21. Instead of giving him money, Prabhupada took money from him. And that is how the rent was contributed for the first hired apartment of ISKCON society, where ISKCON society was registered. So Prabhupada appreciated every individual who rendered any amount of service. And Prabhupada would fan that inclination of doing little service to Krishna and make it so good. So he made Michael Grant become Mukund Goswami. and Jane became Janaki. And Prabhupada personally arranged for their marriage. Prabhupada initiated, Prabhupada accepted them, Prabhupada never rejected them. So Prabhupada is asking that should a sannyasi be engaged? Sannyasi means who has had social suicide, who has given up all the relationship with his kinsmen, with his own relative. Prabhupada left his own wife, his own children. But Prabhupada accepted so many hundreds and thousands of children. Why? Because they all agreed to abide by Prabhupada's instruction and become Krishna conscious. Bhakti Saraswati Thakur says that if my sons and daughter, they become Krishna conscious, so I can produce hundreds of children. So that is the purpose of any relationship, or to foster any relationship. Why? If we can help, or if we can induce the person to become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada is asking this question. That should a sannyasi who is in the renounced order of life and who has given up his family relations encourage the marriage ceremony? And you know what was the second marriage? Very, very celebrated marriage of Gurudas Prabhu and Yamuna Mataji. And Yamuna Mataji is the sibling, is the younger sister of Janaki, of Jane. So Prabhupada got them also married. So all these hippies who were living with all illicit relationship, Prabhupada purified them. And Prabhupada made them so pure that they became spiritual leaders. In how many years? How many years they were with Prabhupada? Not even 10 years. In less than 10 years. From what stage they were and till what stage they reached. So Prabhupada is asking this question. So Prabhupada, see Prabhupada's sharpness. Because Krishna is saying that one should never give up the activity of yajna. So Prabhupada is quoting here his own example. That the Vivaha Yajna, for getting two persons coming together to become Krishna conscious. On the pretext of a sannyasi, because he has taken sannyas, he should not give up that yajna samskar. What is that yajna? Vivaha Yajna. The Lord says here that any sacrifice which is meant for human welfare should never be given up. Vivaha Yajna, the marriage ceremony, is meant to regulate the human mind so that he can become peaceful for spiritual advancement. Very important. Why Vivaha is required? So that the mind can become peaceful. What is the agitation of the mind? Is lust. We have discussed in the 3rd chapter in detail. So unsatisfied mind, agitated mind, it can never practice. So it is advised that one have a Vivaha Samskar. For most men, this Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged. Even by person in the renounced order of life. What an example, what a shining example Prabhupada is quoting himself. And Prabhupada always abided by Krishna's instruction. He never ever thought of what the world will think or what the worldly minded people will think, what his friends will think, what his god brothers will think, what his family members will think. He only thought of one thing. And what was he influenced by? Krishna's opinion. Nothing else mattered. Similarly, if we want to succeed in Krishna consciousness, we should have a clear mandate. The mandate which is coming from Krishna and his representative is the final decision. And we should not look for what others are saying or thinking. We should not be influenced. We should rather not allow them to influence us. Here Prabhupada is saying So many of his god brothers criticized actually Prabhupada on this aspect. That is why Prabhupada had to write many places. That even after becoming sannyasi, Bhaktivedanta Swami is engaging into Vivaha Samskar. He's getting his disciples married. So even of the level of Srila Prabhupada, who was in the renounced order, he performed the yajna, the Vivaha yajna. So what to speak of all of us? Should never ever reject any opportunity of prescribed sacrifice. Prescribed sacrifice. We should not pick it up ourselves. Then it is not a sacrifice. It is not at all a sacrifice. Sannyasis should never associate with, for most men, the Vivaha Yajna should be encouraged, even by a person in the nice order of life. Sannyasis should never associate with women. But that does not mean that one who is in the lower stages of life, a young man, should not accept a wife in the marriage ceremony. So in the human society, we have the institution of marriage. Vivaha Samskar, Vivaha Yajna. It is prescribed. Why? Because the four activities, one of the activities is mating. Now, what is the proper way? Is to have marriage, institution of marriage. Otherwise, people will engage in illicit sex. If marriage institution is not there, then what will be there? There will be illicit behavior and illicit exchange. So to encourage that, to save people from going to hell and going in the lower species of life. For that is what Prabhupada is saying. This is for the human welfare. For the human welfare. All prescribed sacrifices are meant for achieving the Supreme Lord. Therefore, in the lower stages, they should not be given up. The Prabhupada is morely focusing on his own example. The Prabhupada did so much of sacrifice. To perform sacrifice, he himself had to accept so much of suffering, so much of sacrifice. He had to undergo to perform these sacrifices. And then Prabhupada says, similarly, charity is for purification of the heart. So Krishna, Prabhupada has explained yajna, then he is talking about dana. Why? Because if you earn money, with money what comes? So many material desires. The material desire means what? Sense gratification. And sense gratification means what? Sin. If charity is given to a suitable person as described previously, where he has described previously, quickly, why are you taking so much of time? Where we discuss charity?
17th chapter.
Yes, 17th chapter. And charity was also within the three modes. What is the charity in the mode of goodness?
Should be given not expecting anything in return to the suitable place, suitable person, and
Out of duty.
out of
Most important is it is performed out of duty, not as a favor to anyone. Why? Because it is for the purification of self. Prabhupada says, if charity is given to a suitable person, as described previously, it leads one to advanced spiritual life. So very, very important. This is what an acharya is. Acharya means who shows by his own example. Apani achari Prabhu jivera sikhan. So Prabhupada is overwhelmingly in this purport speaking about the sacrifice that he is performing. If he would have not performed these sacrifices, we would never have got the opportunity to know what is Krishna consciousness or what was the possibility of practicing it. Prabhupada accepted and accommodated everyone, whoever came. Many years back, I was reading one of Prabhupada's Lilamrits. So Prabhupada was giving initiation. What is it? It is Diksha Yagya. And one of the candidates among the Dikshartis was a butcher, a cow killer. And he was amongst those who were to be taking the initiation. And all of Prabhupada's disciples, the prominent ones are there, they wanted him out, not to be given initiation. So when his turn came, so Prabhupada personally asked him that what are the 4 regulative principles? And he said, no meat eating. And then Prabhupada said, no more killing of cows. And he paid obeisances to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada took such a risk, Prabhupada gave him the initiation. Which spiritual master will do that? Who will take such risk of taking such karma, such heavy karma on his head to deliver his disciple? Why? The Prabhupada is speaking here. Yagya dana tapa karma na tajyam karme. Never to be given. Many examples of Srila Prabhupada. Unlimited examples. Let us quickly take the 6th verse also. Etani api tu karmani sangam tattva phalani cha kartavyani me partha nishchitam matam uttama. Etani api tu karmani. All these activities, which activities? Yagyadan and Tapa. Sangam tattva phalancha. They should be performed, but without attachment or any expectation of result. Sangam tattva, giving up the attachment, phalanicha. Also giving up the result. That means without any expectation. Yeah. Or any expectation of result. Then kartavyaniti. The same thing. Kartavya. Kartavyani iti. Kartavyani, it should be performed as duty. So what we do basically, many times people give charity and then they want a, advertisement of that. They want something to be inscribed, to be written, that this temple has been built by the generous contribution or donation or this and that. That should always be avoided. Always be avoided. The other day when we were discussing the charities in the 3 modes, what Krishna is recommending, it is to be done out of duty. And who will come on the duty consciousness? Who is a little free from desire. Those who are very much attached. Those who are very much attached, they cannot give donations. Not possible for them. They cannot give charity. Why? Because they have so much desires, so much longing and hankering and craving for sense enjoyment that whatever they have, they feel is less. And they want more. So how can they give charity? The one who is in the desire platform, he cannot perform duty. So Krishna is speaking here, he is saying, Kartavyaniti me partha. They should be performed as a matter of duty. O son of Pritha, that is my final opinion. Nishchitam matam uttamam. So Krishna is closing this question of Arjuna. So never ever it should be stopped or given up. And it is not to be considered for any favor or fortune to anyone. It is favor to oneself. Why? Because this leads for purification. Although all sacrifices are purifying, one should not expect any result by such performance. Again, it has been emphasized. In other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. So what Krishna is speaking about? Krishna is talking about selfless sacrifice, spiritual sacrifice, not the sacrifices which are recommended in the Karma Kand section of the Vedas. That is to be given up. Why? Because all those sacrifices, those Vedic rites or the Vedic rituals or the Vedic sacrifices, why people perform? For phalam. What is the phalam? That they will go to the heavenly kingdoms and enjoy. Again, in the second chapter, Krishna is explaining about it. We discussed that in detail in the second chapter. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadanti avapaschita vedavada rata partha nanyadasti vadina kamatmana swargapara janma karma phala pradam kriya vishesh bahulam bhogashwarya gatim prati. 42nd and 43rd. See, what Krishna has already explained or introduced, Krishna is now concluding. So this is the conclusion or the perfection of renunciation. So Krishna is again reinforcing it, what he has already introduced. So there is nothing new. Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas, which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to the heavenly planets. Resultant good birth, power, and force. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. So somehow the Indian society is caught in this fruitive activities of trying for Bhog and Aishwarya through the process of Vedic sacrifice or rituals. So Krishna is saying it has to be always given up. Prabhupada is saying, in other words, all sacrifices which are meant for material advancement in life should be given up. But sacrifice that purify one's existence and elevate one to the spiritual plane should not be stopped. Everything that leads to Krishna consciousness must be encouraged. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also, it is said that any activity which leads to devotional service to the Lord should be accepted. That is the highest criteria of religion. What is that verse? Which were very famous verse, Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the words, highest criteria of religion. Save pumsa paro dharmo yato bhaktir adhokshate ahetuki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. That which even purifies and satisfies. Save pumsa paro dharmo, with the perfection, highest criteria. A devotee of the Lord should accept any kind of work, sacrifice, and charity which will help him in the discharge of devotional service to the Lord. So as a practitioner for all of us, these three things we must observe. Is sacrifice. What sacrifice we are recommended is to chant the holy name. Krishna says, amongst all the sacrifice, I am the yajna. I am the japa. Yajnanam japa yagyos. Every day minimum we have to chant 16 rounds. And if we are in Purushottam, it cannot be 16. It has to be more than 16. That is yajna. Then dana. If we are earning, we should give a certain percentage. Recommended for those who are serious in spiritual life is minimum 10%. But if you are too attached, then make it 5 and every year keep increasing. The ideal is 50%. But for us, we are not at that level. So let us begin, let us progress. I made an appeal to some of our devotees for IERI Spiritual Fund. And I'm happy to say all of them responded. Why I have to ask? Is it not your own program? But that consciousness, that thought process is not there. Why? Because the absorption in self is so much that whatever we earn is less to fulfill our desires. So how can we think about contributing? So that Krishna is saying is not the path for purification. That is for contamination. And tapaha. The third aspect is tapasya. Human life is meant for austerity. Animal life, there is no austerity. What is the austerity? Wake up in Brahma Muhurat. Waking up in Brahma Muhurat. If we do not wake up in Brahma Muhurat, then we are not performing any austerity. For that, to be able to do that austerity, you have to bring your life in regulation. Okay, so we will go for the recitation of the verses. 15th chapter. Any question? Or any clarification or any doubt? Very unique word Krishna is using for Arjuna. Purush Vyagraha. For the first time, it has touched my attention. It has caught my attention. Purush Vyagraha. Arjuna's name, oh tiger among the men. But tiger is known to conquer. What the mind has to be conquered? How? By performing yajna, dan and tapaha. This is pavanani manishina. Never ever to be given up at any stage of life. Every day we must perform these three activities. Yajna, dan and tapaha. Okay. बोलिए कोई प्रश्न है या कोई समस्या है तो बोलिए.
Prabhuji, these Yajna, Dana and Tapoha are considered as three kinds of renunciation, Prabhuji.
Yajna, Dana and Tapa is to be considered as three kinds of renunciation. Prabhupada is saying that renunciation are of three kinds. Okay. I will not speak on it now. Let me come to the next verses. Yeah. It seems so. It's so simple because Krishna is not talking about, although Krishna will again speak about it, even in the three modes Krishna has spoken. But here it so seems, yes, that renunciation is also of three kinds, and Krishna is talking about Yajna, Dana and Tapa here. He is not talking about the three modes here. That he has already described. He has described charity in three modes, which is Dana. He has described austerity in three modes in the previous chapter. He has also described sacrifice in three modes. Isn't it? Four things we discussed: food, sacrifice, austerity, and charity. So you are very correct. This is good understanding, clear understanding. So three kinds of renunciation. See, what is renunciation? Is to perform yajna, dana and tapa. It's not to just leave house and go and sit in Himalaya and always think and meditate of what is happening in the house. That is not renunciation. That is called Falgu Vairag. And Rupa Goswami says, Falgu Vairag Utpateva Kalpate. He only performs mischief. Okay, thank you. Thank you for that very valuable observation. Why? Because our Manoram Jagannath Prabhu is writing. And you all see, others are still not putting their heart inside to what Krishna is speaking. So they cannot retain. Krishna says, Ye yatham ham prapadyate. We have to allow our mind and heart to align with what Krishna is speaking. How the best way is to write. And after writing, share. At least once in a week, I have so many times requested. But not even one is followed. Sometimes here and there in a month, one write-up comes. If you don't write, then I don't come to know what is your understanding. And believe me, that proper understanding is impossible to develop on one's own individual intelligence. Not possible. Devdutt also wrote to me last. Yeah. But I did not forward it because it was already forwarded by Manoram. Keep writing. We should not be fruitive. कि मेरा शेयर करेंगे तभी मैं लिखूंगी. अरे it is for our own benefit. It is for our own benefit. For our own understanding. With lot of effort, what we can do, we can put a little hair-like hole in our material existence. And from that hairline hole, some spiritual concept can infiltrate in. Otherwise, there is no scope. The heart is already filled with 8,400,000 types of material desires or even more. Where the spiritual desire can infiltrate. In one of the, we were just doing the 13th chapter with our new brahmacharis. So Prabhupada is saying that this 24 element is like a casing. So many times I give the example like a mobile phone. The SIM is inside. The SIM is not visible. How to take this SIM out? You have to crack. You have to open the phone. Then only you can retrieve the SIM. So to make that crack, you have to really put force. You have to put force of spiritual conception to enter and infiltrate into your mind and intelligence. Keep pressing every day. Keep pressing hard. What will happen? One day they will crack. Even if a drop of water falls on the rock, it makes a line, it makes an impression. So to create that impression, we must put our full attention. So that impression is created. And as it goes deeper, the impact will come. The impact will come forever. Okay, we will recite the 15th chapter. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvamula Madhashakham Ashwatham Prahuravyaya Chandamsi Saparnani Yastam Veda Saveda Ved Adaschaurdham Pratatastasya Shakha Guna Pravidha Vishaya Pravala Adashtamulani Anusantatani Karma Anubandheni Manusya Loke Narupamase tatopalabhyate nanto na chadir na cha sampratishta ashvatyenam suviruda moolam asanga shastrena drinena chitva tada padam tat parimargitavyam yasmin gatana nivartanti bhuya tameva chadyam purusham prapadde Yata pravritti prasata purani nirman moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kama dvande vimukta sukha dokha sange gachanti amudha padama vyayat na tadbhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tadhamam paramam mama mamevamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manashasthani indriyani prakriti sthane karshati shariram yadavapnoti yacchapi utkramata ishvara grahitvetani samyati vayugandhani vaset shotram chakshu sparshanam cha rasanam grahanamev cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayanupasevate utkramantam sitam vapi Unjanan va gunanvitam vimudhana nupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha yatanto yoginashtenam pashyanti atmani avastitam yatanto api atkritatmano nenam pashyanti achetasa yadaditya tejo jagadbhasyate akhilam Yachandramati yachagno tattejo vidhimamukam Gama vishya cha bhutani dharayami ahamojasa pushnami chausadi sarva sumabhutva rasatmakam aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashita pranayapana samayukta Vachami annam chaturvidha sarvasya chaham hridasannivishto matta smritirjnanam apohanam cha vedescha sarve rahameva vedyo vedanta kridveda videva chaham dvaima purusha loke sharaschakshareva cha shara sarvani bhutani Bhutasto aksharuchyate Uttama purushastu anya Paramatmeti udarata Yaloke trayamavishya Vivarti avyaye ishvara Yasmat sharamati Aksharadapi chottama Ato asmi loka vedecha Pratita purushottama Yo evam sammudho janati purushottama sa sarve bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata iti guhyatamam shastram idam uktva maya naga etad bhutva buddhimanasya krita kritascha bharata om tatsaditi Srimad Bhagavad-gita su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyaya Yoga Shastre Krishna Arjuna Samvade Panchadasho Adhyaya Purushottam Yoga Namiti Om Tat Sat Hare Krishna. We'll continue tomorrow. Very good. And please see, we have just entered the 10 days of Purushottam. Try to observe what Krishna is again and again emphasizing. Yagya, Dan and Tapa. People only want to perform Yagya, don't want to do Tapa or even Dana. So Krishna is asking for all three. Hare Krishna. I know those to whom I mean to say they are hearing, but I don't know when they will apply. They are still thinking that they know better than Krishna. Don't remain in that illusion.